Finding Hope, the Road to Recovery.
Hi, welcome to Finding Hope, the Road to Recovery, a joint ongoing video project between the Ayeneh Foundation and Tarzana Treatment Centers. Our goal is to bring you quality information about substance use disorders, mental health challenges, and other physical and just difficulties that people face and how they overcome them. Today, my name is John Lavitt, by the way. I am the principal content creator for Tarzana Treatment Centers. And today I am honored to have as my guest one of my closest friends in the world. He is a healing consultant for veterans, and he's also a Vietnam War veteran himself. His name is Brian Delate. Hello, Brian. Welcome to the show.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you today. And our theme today is veterans and the challenge of recovery. And to begin with, we're going to talk about in part one, we're going to focus on basically challenges that veterans face when they return home from conflicts. And then we're also going in part two to talk about the different treatment services that are provided, like organizations like Tarzana Treatment Centers, for veterans, and how they recover from substance use disorders and mental health problems, often a result of PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome, because the extremity of what they go through when they're in conflicts can often lead to problems that can last a lifetime. To discuss those problems, Brian, I would love to start with your personal experience as a veteran and what it was like returning home and the challenges that you faced.
Thank you. This is important. It's an important conversation whenever I get to have it. We get to have it today, and I thank you again. Anyway, for me, when I came home from Vietnam, first of all, I didn't know that I had been forever changed. That was like, what? And as a 20-year-old trying to process the trauma that I had experienced was pretty, not impossible, but it was near impossible. So I found that for myself at that time, one solution was to drink, get high. Yeah, all that stuff. I mean, I did that for the whole next year and got in some trouble. The thing I did not know was I didn't know how to ask for help. That would become something important, and that's something today that has to be said often. Anyway, for me, as you know, college saved me, got me into a normalcy for some time. But then I got into trouble in the late 70s. And that's the first time I really did ask for help. And I worked with a psychoanalyst who was able to help me separate family issues from the war. And I worked with him for about 4 or 5 years. But we hadn't gone deeper under the surface. And also, my drinking and drugging stuff was in and out. And it would be another few years before I got the next layer of help, which was through 12-step work. And that's where I needed to ask for help once again, and I got it.
Can I ask you a question quickly? Yeah. Do you believe that when it comes to returning from conflicts, that veterans often face a challenge in terms of being able to ask for help? Is that the difficulty in asking for help is that as a soldier, I mean, I imagine I've never been a soldier myself. I'm not a veteran. I've never been in that type of situation. But I would imagine you're taught to be self-reliant.
That there's a two-part problem there. Self-reliance, yes, and even self-reliance in combat. You want to be self-reliant so that you can be reliant with the other guys, and they can be reliant with you. But the other part to your question is, yes, self-reliance, especially out of the service, is not my friend. what makes a difference is a combination of trust. I want to ask for help. Can I trust this person? Am I willing to trust this person? Am I willing to extend my trust to the place or the people that can possibly help me? And that's a big question. Some people, they don't want to do it. They're too reticent. They're too skeptical, or they just don't want to take the chance.
Now, in terms of the trust, okay, the question of trust, it seems like we have very different veterans' experiences from different conflicts. When people came back from World War II, they came back as heroes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, there were parades, there were celebrations, there was the GI Bill, you know?
Mm-hmm.
There was so much. Vietnam changed that completely. And when a lot of soldiers came back, we know they were spit upon, they were vilified, they were called baby killers. I mean, there was just a whole, that conflict was so, that conflict both on like a macrocosmic level and on a microcosmic level was so toxic and warped that it affected everyone involved and had such an effect on the society as a whole that the soldiers became the victims.
That's one way to put it.
When they came back, right?
Yeah. I mean, I, for myself, and I'll just say for myself, when I got home, I was angry at the world and confused. And I just didn't know, again, I didn't know who to trust. I didn't think I trusted myself, actually. And all I did was scare people close to me for quite a while. And I think also too, there's something about coming out of that bond that we got to have for the year I was there, and that comes apart. And there you go. Now it's self-reliance time, and I didn't handle it very well. I'm really lucky because it could have been a lot worse. I could have hurt a lot other people. I could have done 100 other things that would have taken me out or somebody else out. And because I had some guardian angels that showed up at different times, I was able to move forward with my life. And as you know, for me, the big trigger came later, because PTSD or PTS is such, it's a wily condition, and depending on who you talk to, there's times where a guy will go through his life, like he goes back from the war, he picks up where he left off, 5 years later something triggers, and he's like hit with it. He gets it. The emotional tumors, I call them, come to the surface, and now he has to deal with it. And that sometimes has happened with different men and women, where 5, 10, 15 years after the fact. And now the deeper layer for me came on 9/11, as I've shared with you before, where I'm downtown in New York, I'm underneath the first plane that hits the North Tower of the World Trade Center, boom. The Vietnam stuff came up like the next day in the biggest way I could imagine. And that's when I went to the VA to get help, to sit down with a guy who would become, I affectionately call him Guardian Angel 214. He became my counselor for the next 15 years, something like that. And I think I feel very fortunate. I have had help come in my direction, or I've gone in the direction where I can get it. And it's come from 12-step work. It's come from spiritual practices. And if need be, the medical people. So
I think you brought up a really fascinating word that I'd like to talk with you in more detail. You talked about trust.
Yeah.
Recently, because Tarzana Treatment Centers offers extensive services for veterans, and they're integrated services. So if you come in with a substance use disorder problem or a mental health problem, but your teeth are messed up, or you have chronic pain, or you have a back problem, Tarzana Treatment Centers now has specialty services where they provide dental help. They provide pain management help by an expert. They provide chiropractic. Because the idea is you have to treat the whole person. You can't just treat one thing by itself and think that someone will heal. Because it's a multidimensional challenge. And I feel like, in a sense, when I was talking to you about the different services that Tarzana Treatment Centers provide, you said, don't throw them all at once at someone.
Right.
You know, it's a process because you have to allow them to trust you with the success of one service and then build on it.
Yeah.
You can't overwhelm them because, in a sense, overwhelming them is going to trigger the PTSD.
It could.
It could, right.
Yeah, absolutely. There's, I learned this actually from EMDR work, where you separate the issues you're dealing with. It could be a piece of your childhood. It could be something from the war. It could be something from a relationship. It could be something with, something with your work life. And the thing is, in those instances, I don't want to have all those things come together like a group of Hell's Angels coming after me. I need to put them over here, here, and here, so I can be manageable. And I feel like what you're describing is those treatments could be the same way. Let's work on this first. Let's take care of this. Let's help this guy get sober. We're going to get him help him get sober. Oh, he needs medical help in this area, and then we'll deal with that. And because I feel like if one of the problems I noticed back when I was back east and I was trying to help guys from coming home from Iraq was I'd see them at a 12-step meeting, and they were confused beyond words because they had meds in them that they didn't know or understand, and they were still getting high or they were drinking. And then they'd be like, I don't know how do I deal with PTSD and I'm not sober. And my opinion only is that get sober, get your body. We got to get your body. Got to get that junk out of there, and then get the help. Get some kind of gravity, some kind of be on the ground, and then take on, use the tools or access the tools for PTSD or PTSD.
You know what's a fascinating connection here with what you just said? Is how much PTSD actually links or plays out in the same way as childhood trauma. And it plays out in the same way where Dr. Gabor Mate, who's arguably the greatest addictionologist in the world, says, the problem is not the addiction. The problem is the pain. And the pain underlying, the trauma underlying the addiction.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, in a sense, post-traumatic stress syndrome, when it happens in a military conflict, it's like suddenly bringing trauma into the adult world in such a profound, extreme way.
Mm.
That same way that there's a childhood trauma. So when it comes to, say like when you were drinking and using when you got back,
yeah,
it doesn't seem like drinking and using at that point was the issue.
No.
But what it was a way to cover up the trauma.
Absolutely. It was a way to cope.
And what's fascinating is like with me, with my childhood trauma, with growing up stuttering and having a lot of abuse in like family relations, smoking pot, it was a way I finally felt acceptance. I finally felt like I had friends. I finally felt like it worked for a long time until it stopped working, drugs and alcohol. Yeah. And yet, what's so fascinating, what so many people don't realize, is that often the mental health issues and the like the anxiety and the depression, not the deeper ones like schizophrenia or something like that, but like basically like treatable anxiety and depression,
yeah,
and the substance use disorders, so often they are symptoms of a much deeper trauma.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this is what Tarzana Treatment Centers does through the integrated care is we help people deal with the underlying trauma, and then we deal with the symptoms as well. So we're dealing with healing the whole person.
Yeah.
And that's the essence of integrated care, I think from your perspective, integrated care is essential for veterans.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think if, I've shared this with you before, I feel that when the conversations take place, one of the ways to engender the trust is to, and this could go for anyone, this could be for a family member or friend or whatever, spouse, but is to just have a conversation that's going to be meaningful, where you're going to give yourself over to sincere and deep listening and commit to that. And you're going to ask that person, that vet, that man or woman, first responder, who were you before your training? Who were you in your training? Who were you in combat or in the traumatic situations? And who were you when you came home? So that they have an arc of story that they can follow of their own, because it's their own story. But then they're reaching another person. And they're going to discover elements of their own story that they might not even have thought of. And that's just like a little piece of what can go into, along with everything else, a way to help someone.
And they can restore parts of their story. Things that they feel like they've lost, they can return to and go like, you haven't lost that. That's still part of your story.
Right. And also, it's that thing about the organization Soldier's Heart that I worked with back east. Their sort of subtitle was "Carry the Burden," and what they meant by that was like, my trauma might feel like a 100-pound kettlebell, and I hand it to you, and it weighs a few ounces, because it's not your kettlebell, it's mine. You hand me yours, which weighs 100 pounds, and I hold it, and it's easy. It's much easier. Sometimes veterans think, oh, I don't want to burden anybody. I don't want to lay this stuff on people. And it's the best thing they could do, because the other person...
I don't want it to crush people like it crushes me.
Right, exactly. They can carry it with you. And that falls into that whole realm of community and spirituality. Because you've come out of, in the service, you come out of a community that, a lot of bonds, and then you need to get into other communities. And literally, I mean, like it could be where you live. It could be an organization, or it could be a bowling league. It doesn't matter. But then ultimately, if this is to be realized in terms of a solution and healing, then that community needs to be put together, or you need to participate in that community, whether it's other veterans or healing modes that include veterans and veterans dealing with trauma.
When you talk about healing as a healing consultant for veterans, what's interesting is that, and I want to express this correctly, because I feel there is a connection between the way that you listen and talk and express yourself, and this type of listening that creates a comfortable space for veterans. Like, you talk in a very peaceful, calm, focused way, and that makes me feel like, wow, he's taking his time to express something, so he'll take his time to listen to me.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense. Well said.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you open the door.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What does it feel like when you open that door?
It feels like, I'm going to sound dramatic, but it feels like I'm being saved. It feels like I'm being saved from myself. You know? Right. Yeah.
Because you're saving someone else.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, it's just one of the most remarkable things that, you know, in AA, and we're getting near to the end of part one here, but in AA, I call it my sponsor hypocrisy, where like I'm constantly sponsoring people in AA, and I'm telling them what to do. I'm telling them, oh no, you need to like look at your part in it, or oh no, you need to do an inventory, or you need to meditate more. And then I realize that I'm not doing those things for myself. And here I am recommending them, saying, "Oh no, this is an essential practice," and yet I'm ignoring the essential practice. And so when I see that as sponsor hypocrisy, suddenly I'm able to go like, "Wait a second, maybe there's a reason why I'm not feeling so great these days," you know?
Mm-hmm.
And because I'm not putting my tool belt, which is what the 12 steps are. They're essentially tools for living.
Yeah. I'm
not putting them into action.
Right.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe that's why sometimes and we'll get more into this in the second part, why veterans can respond to the 12 steps because they desperately want tools.
Yeah. And they want the structure.
They want the structure, right?
Which is you're in the structure of the military, all that stuff, and then you're moving from that to a healing structure, and you still have to, and you need to give yourself over in the same way. You can't take baby steps. I think you got to step fully into it.
What was it like in terms of the challenge when you were in such a structured, intensely structured organization? And that was so on such a high level of intensity, like the military, and then suddenly you get back, and there's almost no structure whatsoever.
Oh, it's dramatic. The structure. When I went into the service, the thing that surprised me was I'm in a severe structure that I initially don't like, and somehow I thrive in that structure. I gave myself over to it. I said, I'm gonna do the best I can here. And I did. I went beyond anything I thought I could do. I was really good at it. And then when it's gone, it's gone. And then for me, as we spoke about, the next structure was college. And I knew from the other one, I thought, if I give myself over in the same way, I'll do that. I'll succeed. I'll discover. I'll learn. And then just jumping forward to AA and the 12 steps, I recognized it again, and I thought, not going to go in and just walk the hallways. I'm going into the different rooms. I'm going to be part of this. I'm going to be part of this community. I want more spirituality. That expression, phenomenon of craving, is like, it's about what happens if we put the wrong substance into our bodies. Well, if you energetically and spiritually start to go after what this has to offer for healing, then the phenomenon of craving is on a different level. Its possibilities are endless in terms of what's in front of me, spiritually speaking.
So in terms of the road to recovery for veterans, if they're willing to put the same type of discipline into their recovery that they put into their training, then they're sure to, then it's almost like a guarantee of success.
Very possible.
Because it's almost, a guarantee is a big word.
Yeah.
But it's really, in a sense, this incredible opportunity to embrace recovery because you're doing it with a diligence and with a focus, and you're not questioning, but you're saying, you know what, I'm going to embrace this path.
That's it.
And I'm going to walk this road.
Yeah.
Step by step.
Yep.
And that's why it's called the 12 steps.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because it is step by step.
Yeah.
So, I really think, I am, from my own perspective, I'm so grateful. And you know what? This is the end of part one of this wonderful episode of of Veterans and the Road to Recovery. That was my Freudian slip for the episode. And in part two, we're going to talk more about treatment services and how they work for veterans. Thank you. Welcome to part two of this episode of Finding Hope, the Road to Recovery. As I said in part one, it's an ongoing venture between the Ayeneh Foundation and Tarzana Treatment Centers to provide experience, strength, and hope for people around the world. My name is John Lavitt. I'm the principal content creator for Tarzana Treatment Centers. And my guest for part two again is Brian Delate. a Vietnam War veteran and a healing consultant for veterans. Welcome again, Brian.
Thank you, John.
And in part two of veterans and the challenge of recovery, we're going to talk about like different treatment services and how they work for veterans. And what's incredible about Brian and his record of helping is he's helped veterans all over the country find recovery on so many different levels. Not just with substance use disorders, but with mental health challenges, with family issues, with PTSD, with just on such a variety of basically because I think, and this gets back, Brian, to when we were talking about trust, right? And when we were talking about trust, I think part of a trust is you have to meet a veteran where they're at.
Yeah.
And you have to tailor your services and what you're going to give to that veteran. Mm-hmm. Do you believe that's true?
Absolutely. And that's why in part one I mentioned the whole 4-question thing with regard to initiating a conversation to build the trust or to access it.
Can we go over the 4 questions?
Absolutely.
One more time?
Yes. When you are, you want to help a veteran, a man or a woman who has had trauma, the best way to do it is to ask them these 4 questions. 1, who were you before your training? Who were you in your training? Who were you in combat? And who were you when you came home? And it's an arc of questions. And then the most important part of that is to be available to listen deeply, and be prepared to listen to whatever is being said. Yeah.
And do you find often when you're beginning that process with a veteran that they're almost astonished that someone is listening to them?
Yeah, I've had that experience so many times because, as you know, I work in entertainment, I work in theater and film. And for a long period of time, I was doing a play called Memorial Day about a veteran on the verge of suicide, and which is still a big problem in this country. I want to say that. And I found that, and I had one instance where, when I was doing the play in New York, and I'd have these interesting conversations that would follow, there was a veteran, an Iraqi war veteran, Afghanistan, and he had seen a workshop production at the Actors Studio in New York. He wanted to come see it again, and we didn't do it again. I think it was a month later. We were doing it at this they call it Black Box Theater in New York, seats about 70 people or something like that. He contacted me. He said, "I'm bringing my friend to see you tonight. Can we say hello afterwards?" Absolutely. So he shows up with his friend. We talked for a couple of minutes afterwards because there were other people there and everything like that. The next day, he contacts me and he said, "You remember my friend from last night from Afghanistan?" "Yeah, of course." Well, he said, "We weren't 3 blocks away from the theater when he said to the guy who brought him, he said, 'I've been planning to kill myself for the last couple of months. I don't know what to do.'" And now, okay, for my part, if what I did for entertainment, if you will, well, beyond that, but if I do that and it helps one guy to go deep enough in himself to kind of go, "Oh, maybe I shouldn't eat a bullet. Maybe I shouldn't do that." And then he's with his friend and says, "What do I do?" And they go to the VA and they got help. And so for my part, that's part of how, and I've had many conversations after doing those particular plays or plays like that where there's the possibility for maybe one person, one guy, one gal who makes them kind of go deeper to a place in themselves where they can go, maybe I need some help. Maybe I shouldn't be trying to hold on to this by myself, And so that's. And I had something else and I forgot it.
You know what's fascinating in that moment is it reminds me, at Tarzana Treatment Centers, the clinical staff across the board. Now, I'm not just talking about the doctors and the psychiatrists, but also like the technicians and the drivers and the people who just like do like, you know, who are kind of like lower on the totem pole, right? Nevertheless, they're all taught like you never know the moment when you will save a life.
Yeah.
And never in like a treatment process take anything personally. Because 99% of the time it's not about you. They're just deflecting and projecting their own fears and their own and their own trauma onto you. Because that's easier than dealing with it themselves, because they have the tools. But the fact is, if you don't take it personally, if you don't react and go like, "What are you saying to me? You can't say that to me. You know, that's not okay." If you don't react, but instead you respond, and you respond, and the difference between a reaction and a response is often the pause. And that Tarzana Treatment Centers, they tell people, if you just pause and say to someone, "I understand where you're coming from. I hear you.
Yeah.
How can I help you? What can I do? What can we do to make this better? What's the next steps that make sense, both in the context of you being in treatment and in the context of what you need right now."
Yeah.
And let's find a common ground. I think that word is a huge word for veterans as well. Common ground, that phrase.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It smacks of community again.
Right.
It's like, you know, I mean, you and I have common ground in a couple of different areas, and it's like, and I mean, I think everybody wants that in some way. You know, I think when we're put into acute situations where, you know, our behavior or our thinking or our psyche's been rocked or split in some way, we need that connection. We need whatever the common ground is. I mean, in my delusional way of thinking, when I got home from Vietnam, my common ground was the local bar, you know, or the place where we could hang out and get high. That was common ground. That was going to have to be elevated, or I was going to die there. That's it.
And I understand, because I went through that as well in my addiction, is the desperation to be accepted by people who are really not capable in that context of accepting anyone, right?
Yeah.
Because they're in their own, excuse my French, but in their own shit. Okay, they're buried deep in their own in their own issues and problems, and they're lashing out, and they want to also, they see vulnerability as something to be taken advantage of. And I think that's something which veterans, with their resistance to treatment services, is they feel often that they've been taken advantage of.
Well, they have.
They have.
And I'll tell you why, too. A lot of times, especially in this day and age, especially out of the last two wars, and even with my generation, there are so many people that know that there are a lot of men and women who are receiving what they call 100% service-connected benefits. So they're getting cash-free money each month. And then there are people out there who want to take advantage of that. Even in the so-called treatment community, it's like, "Oh, he's a veteran. We can get, you know, whatever. Oh, I know, we'll sell him the thing to help his back, you know, or we'll get him. We'll get him to buy these supplements because he's a veteran. He's got money, you know." So the taking advantage of veterans is, I mean, I think it's a crime, and I just I know a lot of people. I know people who have tried to do that with me, and I just have to be mindful. There are some people that are more vulnerable than others, and the best thing, that's the VA does try to do. They do try to protect the veteran. You know, it's even hard to get on the site. You know, but
that's also why Tarzana Treatment Centers has such a long history of working directly with the VA and working with veterans, and basically, in a sense, I think what is essential in any treatment process, a checks and balances system.
Mm-hmm.
A system to make sure that, in a sense, that veterans are being given what they need, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And
it's like what you said before too,
Right.
in terms of if the treatment center like Tarzana can be sensitive to the needs of who's in front of them, then they're going to be able to say, oh, well, let's start here to get you started, to help you. Let's bring this in second. Oh, and then you can talk to so-and-so who's going to help you figure out. And so Tarzana clearly has a plan of action, but it sounds malleable so that it's going to be hopefully tailored to who steps in the door.
Right, because not everything fits the same foot. Not every shoe fits the same foot.
Mm-hmm.
I feel also, in the beginning, we spoke about what it was like for people returning from World War II, and then we spoke about what it was like for people returning from Vietnam. I think what needs to be spoken about right now, and directly connected to the incredibly high suicide rate and among veterans right now, is what it's like for veterans returning from Afghanistan, the Persian Gulf War, from Iraq. And I feel like what's so profoundly different is that what they're experiencing is apathy. They're experiencing, what I mean is like the society doesn't care.
Exactly.
There's an apathy in the society. There's a sense of like, I don't care that you're a veteran. I don't care that you returned. I don't care what you did. It doesn't matter to me. What I don't get anything out of that. Excuse me. I'm focused on the next blockbuster movie that I want to see.
Yeah.
I'm focused on I'm focused on getting what's mine. I'm focused on this great new internet site I found, and my God, are you using AI? And what there is like, in a sense, like, and what's fascinating as well is there's so many services now through the internet and online. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
Telehealth, which Tarzana does kind of in like a little bit in like the introductory way, and then in like the post-treatment way.
Yeah.
But during the treatment process, it is face to face.
Yeah.
And the fact is, I really feel for veterans, like they need they need that connection,
Yeah.
They need to know, like, I can touch you, you're present, you're not a disease to me.
Mm-hmm.
You're not toxic to me. I'm going to give you a hug. That's the thing is like, let's talk about like the psychology of the hug. What does that mean to veterans?
Well, I wasn't a hugger.
No.
When I got back. Yeah, I can tell you that was going to take some time. I mean, that wasn't much in my family. That was part of it. I mean, sometimes, just one quick story. The day I was leaving my company, I discovered an emotion I'd never experienced before. My body started to shake. I was living for that day to leave. And on my way to the Jeep with my duffel bag, I couldn't stop shaking. And I was like going, oh, what's going on? And I started having this, like, I was quaking. And then I started crying. And then some of the guys that I was with, 4 of them came over to the Jeep, and they were laughing, but it was a good laughter. And we were hugging it out. Oh man, it's gonna be great. You're gonna be home with your girlfriend. It's gonna be cool, man. You're gonna have a great time. And I feel like, I can point to little places like that where there was a hug. I got home, and when my dad answered the door, because I got home 3 days early, we shook hands. I mean, I have to say that my evolution, and also because of theater, I got into theater in college. People are hugging all the time. Like, here's the vet, creeping out. And I ended up, I got into it. And I really feel like, it's so cool that you mentioned that, John, because that's like something that we know from our whole 12-step world, but it's also more acceptable now. But I just want to say one other thing too, and that's what
Please.
the other thing was about the apathy. There is something about, and I think the nerve I want to touch is that what's possible, and sometimes we see it more in podcasts, is that the generations of my daughter, and maybe on both sides of that, are, I don't even know if they know it, but I think they're looking for meaning. They're looking for meaning. You know, I mean, their needs are met better than when I was a kid. And so what I feel is missing is meaning. And part of like whether we talk about Tarzana or anything connected to veterans coming in those doors to hopefully come out the other side and have more meaning in their life. You know, that you may not find that in the literature of any treatment center. But if a place like what John is discussing with Tarzana, if the men and women who go there can come out the other side and feel like they've found meaning for their lives, that's success.
Yeah, and you know, we're coming to the end of a podcast that I feel like we could go on for hours. Okay, but
yeah, we could.
Yeah, we could. Yeah, we.
I don't know about them.
But one thing is like, what's interesting about that phrase we just used, the psychology of the hug, is I don't mean that we hug everyone.
Right.
As much as people understand that we are open to a hug.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
That basically when you're ready, we're here on that level for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
And the other thing as well is like in a sense of like letting veterans know, you know, that these doors are open. If you take the first step towards us, we are ready to accept you.
Mm-hmm.
And we understand. And that's the thing with like, when you use the word meaning, I think so many veterans from the recent conflicts feel like their service has no meaning back in this country. That people do not care. And what we have to, and I think what's really important is, and excuse me, what I want to end with in a way is to say like, Brian, thank you for your service. You know, thank you for going over there. And when I say thank you for your service, I'm not saying just thank you for your service in Vietnam. Right. I'm saying thank you for your service in that, God, has it been 40 years since Vietnam? 50 years? I mean,
50 plus.
50 plus years. But in those years, what have you done? You've been of service to so many other veterans. You've helped reduce that suicide rate by helping people on so many different levels, whether it's through performance or through going into the VA and talking one-on-one and taking veterans under your wing. Mm-hmm. You've never abandoned that. That's always been part of your primary purpose.
Yeah.
And the fact is, it's that service, because that service goes like, you know what? I understand that the wounds do not go away, and that the wounds of today are just as important as the wounds from Vietnam or the wounds from World War II or the wounds from the Civil War, you know, right. And going all the way back.
Yeah.
That in a sense, that everyone who's been through that conflict, everyone who has experienced PTSD, who is in need of help, deserves to be helped. And that's something also that I want you to realize that Tarzana Treatment Centers really focuses on. Our doors are open. I mean, we take every type of insurance. We will figure out a way to make it work for you and your family so you receive the services that you need as a veteran. And we will take it at your pace at the same time. I mean, I think that's something that was so important that you said is like, meet people where they're at.
Yeah. Yeah.
And allow a veteran to develop trust and security at their own pace. Yeah. Because you don't know what they need to process their trauma, and there's no cookie cutter.
Right. No, that's right.
You know? And so I feel like, I'm deeply moved by this issue, and I wish there was more ways in which people could give back. What was that project that you told me about, the Wounded Warrior Project?
Oh no, thank you for asking. It's called it's an organization called Trauma and Resiliency Resources. They are saving lives. They deal with severe suicide people. The recovery rate is remarkable. If you want to check them out and see what they're up to, it's trrhelp.org. trrhelp.org. They're doing remarkable work.
And that's a perfect place to end. Thank you so much for listening in on this episode of Finding Hope, The Road to Recovery. Brian, thank you so much for being my guest.
Thank you, John, for having me.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Brought to you by Tarzana Treatment Centers. You can visit our website at www.tarzanatc.org or call 1-800-996-1051.